Welcome back, my dear students. This is your teacher, Dr. Osama Kashfu, and this is a new lecture in transportation. And today we'll take some new aspects and new issues, and we'll work on it. Let's move and see. So here we go. The transportation system in all over the world, how it looks like, and what are the modes of transportation and how it works. Transportation is the movement of people and goods from one location to another. Transportation is the movement of products from one node in the distribution channel to another. We know that the distribution channel is from the producer to the wholesaler, and from the wholesaler to the retailer, and from the retailer to the final consumer. So this is the channel, what's called by the channel. There are some fundamentals for the transports, including the equipments, the people, and the decisions. We have equipments, we have people, we have decisions. The equipments like the trucks, planes, trains, boats, pipelines, the people who work in the transportation system, like the drivers, loaders, unloaders. Those people are loading and unloading the goods in the warehouses. Decisions like routing, timing, quantities, equipment, size, transportation mode, all those also are in the transportation system or part of the transportation system. Decisions also like routing or timing or quantity or equipment or whatever, all these are parts of the system as well. So this is the second point. In all the developing and the underdeveloping world, actually, it's not in the developing world, only in developing and underdeveloping worlds, it's better to put the warehouses very close to the ports and the markets and close by the laborers. That's when we choose the site of the factory, the location of the factory, or the location of the warehouse as well. Usually some of the warehouses will be close by the factories, and we saw the types of warehouses before, and we knew most of them are close to harbors or to urban areas where are the cheap labor or the saving cost or lower cost labor, and where the infrastructure is there, like the roads, electricity, all the governmental beneficiaries, which can help to grow the industry. While in countries with developed distribution system, people can live in places far from production and resources, but this is not favorable situation, because the better the people are very close to the site location or the warehouse location. This is the better situation in that case. Rule of transportation in logistics. So we say the transport is a part of the logistic system. That's logical. And transportation is the physical link connecting the firm to its supplies and customers. In a node and linked scenarios, transportation is the link between fixed facilities. Transportation also adds values to the product by providing time and place utility. Let us say, what is the time and the place utility? Time utility is different in time. As example, some of the vegetables are produced in the spring and you consume them in the winter time. So this shift is time. Time, like when we say time utility, like when you put the cucumber or the carrots in salt and it changed from the what you eat, like fresh, into pickle. This we call it time utility. Time utility for the people who drink liquors, and they know that when you like when you just do the wine, is not like when you leave it for 5-6 years. So this is also time utility. And place utility. Place utility means the difference between, or I get the benefit of that the production in one place and consumption in another place. This we call it place utility. That the production in a place and the consumption in another far area. This we call it place utility of the goods. So transportation will help in both, in time utility and in place utility. Of course, there is a strategies for working on the transportation system. And the word strategy is of a vital importance. It means of a vital importance. And I said before, what do you mean by the word strategy? And the strategy means of a vital importance. Then comes after that the policy, then then after that rules and programs and decisions. So strategy must acknowledge the following elements. So for a good strategy, I must know the following. First, customer requirements. What do the customer want? Or what does the customer want? What does the customer want? Because basically, I'm trying to satisfy the customer's needs, customer requirements. I'm trying to satisfy always the customer needs, what he wants. So timely shipment. The timely shipment, the time of shipping. Mode selection, where I will ship, by fair or by ferry, by ships, or by, which we call it water transport, or by pipelines, or by trains, or by trucks. Which mode I will use for the transportation. Carrier relationships. The carriers relationship between the carriers, how far it is, the measurements which you will use for as a standard for shifting the products from a place. Are you going to use the ton or metric ton, or based on the distance, or based on the volume? What kind of measure you will use for your transport media? Regulatory impact and the flexibility. Flexibility also is one of the most important points, the flexibility. Transportation selection. Those are, or the mode, the planes, the trucks, the train, and the taxi, or whatever you will use for taking your, or the cars, the small cars. So it depends on responsiveness, the degree of responsiveness, the reliability, relationships, and also, of course, the volume of the goods, how far it is it heavy, it is light, it takes a big place and it's light, it takes a big place and it's heavy. It depends on all those factors together. There are principles for the participants for transportation. There are some principles. So before we go to the principles, I will put here a question. Define okay, let us leave this now for the moment. No problem. No problem for the moment for the questions. We still have time for questions. Transportation functions, principles, and participants. The transportation functions are productive movements, production, storage. The transportation principles, economy of scale. The economy of scale means that you will shift a big amount so that you will have to reduce the costs, of transportation. We have fixed cost and we have variable cost, as we will study in the mathematical part. So we have both the costs. Transportation principles, shippers, consignee, public, government, carriers, and agents. This is the economies of scale, as I told you. And the economies of scales is telling me the more you transport, the less the total costs, the less the total transportation costs. So if you will produce one unit, as example, exactly like if you hire a taxi alone and you hire a taxi with your friend, in both the cases, you will pay the $10. But if you go with your friend, each one will pay $5 only. If you are three, if it is $15, then everyone will pay $5 only. Okay, so when the greater the amount which will be transported of goods, the less the costs will be. Also the same thing. The larger the distance, there is the transportation cost as well. So you get, for that reason, you find the planes they made in the aviation, the air mileage. You travel more, you have more discounts, and the cost of traveling will be less per mile. If you travel 1,000 miles, that will cost you, as example, $20 per mile. But if you travel 10,000 miles, that will cost you $4 per mile, as example. And this also, like the aviation system in the whole world is doing this. And you know, there are some places like the air mileage or whatever, you take benefits from the more you travel, the far the distance, the less the total costs you pay. So the cost will be down in two cases till the moment. If you send in bulks, the greater the bulk of goods that is loaded or transported, the less the costs. And the other thing is, the greater the distance, the less the cost as well. We come to the transportation functions principles. The transportation functions is a product movement and product storage. Those are the two things which we care here about. The movement from a spot to another spot, or from a point to another point, and the storage. Those are the two things which we care about in the transportation system. And we have also transportation principles, which are the economy of scales and the economy of distance. So we have the transportation functions, and we have the transportation principles. We said economy of scales and economy of distance. We have also the transportation participants, shipper, consignee, public, government, carrier, and the agents, and all those are types also of transportation function. They are working together also on the will participate in the transportation process, or the shipper, or the seller, and the receiver, or the consignee. This is the guy who will send, or the party which will send, or the person who will send, or the company which will send the goods into the receiver. Here, the shipper wants to ship his goods into the receiver or the buyer with the lowest possible costs, with the lowest possible costs. And at the same time, the receiver also needs to receive the goods with the lowest possible costs. It's simple. It's very simple because both of them are looking for the same point. Both are looking for the same point. Okay. So I'm doing this now for the lowest possible cost, either the shipper or the seller or the receiver or the buyer. The receiver is the buyer and the shipper is the seller. Okay. And this is done within the public and the government rules and carrier and agents and internet. We can do this through. So you can do this now through the internet, but you have to care about the regulations of the government as well. So all this will be done within the regulations of the government and will be done also through the internet. The transportation participants, still we are here. We're talking about the transportation participants cells. The shipper can look for carriers and agents. And this also carriers and agents are the one who will receive the goods from the shipper and send it to the buyer or receiver. We still have all this under the effect of the external environment, which consists of the public, the government, the carriers, and by the help of the internet. So the carriers, we can find the shipper. Carriers are looking for a shipper, and receivers and shippers are looking for a carrier. Okay, as long as the carriers are the one who's having the equipments, and we have many types of carriers as we will talk about them later on. So we have here, still in the participants, the transportation system is the vital of the country's economic health. Yes. So we said there are some external effects, or there's effect for some forces, external forces like the government, the public, the regulations, the custom, the culture, all this effect on the shipping process and on the logistics system as a whole. So if we look here, we find that the transportation participant, the transportation system is vital for the economy's economic health. And here you can do also, you get use of the internet like we said before, because we have the same figure in the those last three slides. It shows me that those are the factors that affect the logistic system as a whole. That's including as well, logically, it's including the transportation system. So you can also use the internet as aid to transportation, as a kind of a system that will help in achieving the target, which is conducting the transportation process. So you can get benefit of the technology like the internet in truck shipments, in purchase fuel and transportation and equipment and supply. You can use the internet also for much products needing to be shipped with available capacity. You can use the internet. It will help you in a lot of points to complete the process, successfully complete the process. The public or the people, those are who create the demand for the transportation. Because finally you are going to receive, the receiver, the buyer, will receive the goods for what? to sell it. He will sell it to whom? To the public. Then everything under the effect of the public itself. Okay. And the public is the one who create demand on the transportation modes and the transportation costs, even public, the people, the effect of the people. And this is the external environment. We're talking about the external environments. This is the external environment, the people, how far their effect. Shall go now for some questions. We'll take about 10 minutes here for the following questions. Question number 1. This is 210. Question 1. 210. This means the name of the curriculum is 210. Discuss transportation modes. This was the first question. The second question is the second question will be principles and this is the second question. We'll talk about also a question which we had here, like what do you mean? 3. What do we mean by economic of scales in transportation? What do we mean by the economic of scales in transportation? And this is the third question. We'll stay here like around 10 minutes to 15 minutes to answer those 3 questions. Then we will move back forward after that. Those 3 questions. So we'll have here those 3 questions, and we will go for the answer of these 3 questions. Now, stay here around 10 minutes, then we'll move forward for another part. Let's go. Thank you so much. Let's start. Thank you. We'll take around 10 minutes here. That will be fine. Okay, my dears, we had enough time to answer these questions. We'll move forward now for another part. This is the transportation principles. Network transportation network data, it is a directed link connecting to an origin, supplier, or facility to the destination facility or linking the company's suppliers to its facilities. The interface facilities transportation network connecting its facilities to one another. And we have also the outbound transportation network connecting the company's facilities to its customers and markets. The routes of goods here, like the goods are shipped at shipper, freight forward warehouse, then it goes to the air terminal or container terminal or pier or railway or truck, whatever, any kind of transportation media. It goes in bulk goods or pier for the bulk, then plane, any one of these for air terminal, the plane or container terminal will go to vessel, or pier will go to bulk goods or berg, or it will go by the railway or the trucks. Then all of those together may change transportation modes. Then after that, it will move from the transportation destination into the freight forward warehouse, and goods will reach to the purchaser or the purchase or the buyer. The transportation regulations are the acts which regulate the transportation process in all the parts locally and internationally. The history, we are not in need to know the history because it is it's not the field of our studies but there is just what I want you to know, that there is a big move in the Transportation Act, especially after the adoption of the internet and using the technology of communication in the whole world. Transportation industry structure, we have, like we said before, we have 5 modes: the water, which is ships, the air or the air aviation, the airplanes, the highway trucks, the rail, and the pipelines. Those are all the 5 transportation modes. And we had a video, I talk about them. But just now, for more information, the roads or the railways capable of carrying a wide variety of products, that's true, much more than other modes, that's fine. Because the train, like sometimes you see 33 cars, cargo cars in the train working. A very small number of carriers, likely only one will be able to serve any one customer location. The third trend is to merge. The trend is to merge. The trend is to merge smaller companies into larger ones with ultimate goals of having perhaps 2 transactional rail carriers. Railroads, this one permit seamless accessibility can be a problem. This is the railways. This also some drawbacks. Transit times are spotty, but are generally long. Still, we are in the railroads. Reliability and safety are improving and are generally good. The safety side of the railroads. Premium intermodal services, straight, biggie pack, and containerized freight. Double stacks, those also here in the rails. Road rail services, unit train services, intermodal marketing company. It's difficult to assess the railroad industry without getting into the subject of service. Shippers complain. Rail carriers say they are trying to improve. Wall Street say the improving services is imperative. Actual improvements are coming, but slower than the demand for faster, more reliable, and cheaper services. One problem is that standards continue to increase. Motor carriers. The motor carriers is the second way for shifting goods. The motor carrier industry is characterized by a large number of small firms. In 1999, there were 505,000 registered motor carriers. Low cost of entry causes these large numbers used by almost all logistics systems. Those are the motor carriers. And it's like 82% of the freight in the United States are moved by the motor carriers, by the trucks. 82%. Consists of high and private carrier. One thing I didn't tell you about the railroad, that you still have to take another transportation to the destination area. You still have to take another transportation into the destination area. So it is not the end. It is not the end. So it's like, it's not the end. So we cannot, it's difficult to assess the railroad industry without getting into the subject of service. Shippers complain, rail carriers, Wall Street. Also, we want to say that in the transportation, the rail transportation, it's having only a points of destination. That means that you don't ship from door to door, and this is a problem. You do not ship from a door to door, but you will send your ships. You will ship only to a destination from the train station. You have to take another transportation into the final destination or the buyer's location as it is. And this will be more costs because you will carry, unload and upload again, then unload again in the shop of the buyer or the location or the spot of the buyer, which will be causing more money in that case. However, still the train are safe and less costly because it carry in big bulks. Motor carriers, like we said, 82% in the United States are moved through motor carriers. Motor carrier industry for hire or private, and for hire, it will be carrier industry in the United States, how it works and how, and if you can see also, you will see that the motor carrier industry is private or for hire. And for hire locally in each state or interstates in between the states and each other. And in between the states and each other, we have exempt or regulated or contract as well. The motor carrier. The motor carrier, large number of small firms in 1999, total which 12,500 were regulated carriers, only 7% of which had revenues 10 millions, which 76 having revenues less than 3 millions. 7% have profits or revenues more than 10 million, and the others less than 3 million. Characterized by low fixed costs and high variable costs. Yes, the motor carrier are very low fixed and very high variable. The variable depends on the distance, and the more you transport, the more the costs in the variable. The variable like the oil, the gas, the driver's costs, those are all variable costs. Variable costs like the oil of the car, the gas, the maintenance, the driver costs, and the driver expenses, like he's also has to rest in motels in the road if he's interstates between two states and each other. He had to rest in one of the motels in the road. He had to his expenditures like other costs. all those together will increase the motor carriers, the variable cost, but the fixed cost is very low. Okay, the fixed in the equipments is the same. So it doesn't matter. The share of each unit transported from the fixed cost is reduced, is going down. Than rail, of course, it's faster than the rail. High accessibility, there is more flexibility in the motor carrier. Reliability can be affected greatly by the weather. For the motor carriers, yes, the weather, if it is snowing or raining, or so, there will be a doubt about the times of arrival and times of departure. Small vehicle size coincides with lower inventory strategies and quick replenishments. So because it's doesn't carry in big bulks like the trains or the ships, so still small amounts. Relatively high cost compared to rail and water, yes. It is higher in the cost than the rail and the water itself. That's true. The domestic water carrier, when we say that the third kind or the third type, water carrier is like the ships or the ferries. So we have private and for hire. Also, whenever we don't talk about the private so much, we usually always talk about for hire. For hire exempt or regulated or contract. Any one of them waterway used. Internal waterway in one of the lakes of one state, or Great Lakes, or coastal and intercoastal, means between borderlines, between a country and another country, through the water, through the oceans, through the seas. That's it. The domestic water carriers available along the Atlantic, Gulf, and Pacific coast, along the Mississippi, Missouri, Tennessee, and Ohio rivers systems, and the Great Lakes. So those domestic inside the United States, this was done in the United States, this slide, so this exploring in the United States, but what applies on the United States cannot be applied on any other country. Okay, regulated common and contract carriers hold about 5% of the fleet, while private and exempted carriers hold about 95%. So the private is 95%. The private carriers, the carriers which is owned by specific people, is 95% of the total. Domestic water carrier. What about the domestic water carrier here? What we can say here? It's a low-cost mode. It's a low cost, of course. The water carriers are very low cost, typically a long distance mover, low rates but long transit time, low accessibility but high capability. The international water carriers. We talk about the domestic. Now the time to talk about the international water carrier. Large, high capacity, because it's big ships, like what you see for moving the oil, the goods, the wheat, the products, the agricultural products from a country to another country. So it's dealing in bulks, very huge bulks. Engage in a contract basis. Many have self-contained cranes. It has cranes for loading and unloading, self-contained cranes. So it is with cranes as well. So it is with cranes. Specially designed to hold minerals or can handle multiple cargoes in the same time. So what about the international water carriers? What are the types of them? We have tankers, specially designed for liquid cargoes, largest vessels, container ships, high speed for ships. Larger vessels can handle more than 7,500 containers. It can take 7,500, 7,500, 7,500 container, can carry till 7,500 containers. Roll and roll off. This is basically a large ferry that facilitates the loading and unloading process by using drive on or off ramps. may also have the capacity to haul containers. Others, we have OBO, multiple purpose carriers, and barges, not trans-economic, transcenic. Okay. We'll go now to the air carriers. A limited number of large carriers earn about 90% of the revenues. Any of the carriers can carry air freight through some whole nothing but freight. Cost structure is highly. The costs of the air carriers are very high and do not own right of way. Yeah, transit times are fastest of the modes. This is the fastest for the transit time, but rates are very high. So the expenses are very high in the air carriers. So here it is 18 times higher than the air in the costs than the motor carriers. Seek goods with a high value to weight ratio, a high value to weight ratio. The precious of this is very high, and at the same time, the weight is very low, very small. Okay. So you can put in it like something with a cheap, a kind of goods which is cheap and take size. No, you have to put in it something very expensive and with a light weight. Accessibility is low as its capability. Reliability subject to weather more than other modes, more than the trucks itself. We care in the weather here in that kind of mode. Shall I stop here now for the moment and complete in the next video, part 2 of this lecture. Students, hello. You can enjoy now your break, and we will be back like around 10 minutes, and we will be back. So that's fine. That's okay. Thank you so much. So enjoy your break now, and we will be back around 10 to 15 minutes. Thank you. That is okay. Here we go. Yeah. Thank you so much. Enjoy your break, my dears. Take your time, feel free. Then we will come back after 15 minutes. Stretch yourself, do a cup of coffee, whatever you want to do. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. We'll be back within 10 to 15 minutes. Thank you. Okay, my dear students, we'll come back to the final part 2 of this our lecture, which is a common part for all our work. It's a very common part. We will come to the point that, let us share the screen, our in-class activities. So here, we will work on 2 routes here on 2 main questions. Within the upcoming 15 minutes, please complete all your missing questions on D2L. If you are done, please move to the next question below. Again, I'm saying, within the upcoming 15 minutes, please complete all your missing questions on the D2L. If you are done, please move to the next question below. So if you did all your in-class activities, nothing is missing in this 15 minutes, then go to the next question. The next question is, write what you came to know today in not less than 15 lines. So what I want you to do is to write what you came to learn today in not less than 15 lines, maybe more. It's preferably to be written, handwritten. And what? Take a picture with your camera, with your cell phone, then paste the answer on the D2L. Again, I would say, if you are done for your first question, please move to question number 2. Question number 2 is an aggregate question. Which means that what you came to learn from today's lecture, the main points. By the way, don't focus on one point and leave the others. Try to make a cadence between all the parts of your answer. Don't focus. If I'm telling you to describe a human being, don't focus on the hands and leave the head and the chest and the shoulders and back. No, focus on all equally, on all the parts of the lecture. It's what you came to learn about 15 lines, more or less, it's okay. But I prefer that you write it handwritten, should be handwritten, then take a picture and paste it, copy and paste it to your D2L system. After you write it with your handwritten, because that will fix it more. You won't take it, copy and paste, then we didn't do anything. When you write it down, that's why we are here about 30 minutes in this part or less, because you have to write it down. So this, I will ensure that there is a good feedback today for your work and that you are well done. So please, we will work now on the 2 questions. Don't forget, after you write on an external paper note, any note outside. Then after you finish, take a picture, then copy and paste in its place in the D2L. The question and the D2L. Write the answer, or if you have problems with the D2L, you can send it to me on the chat here. You can send it to me here on the chat. Thank you so much. You have a great day, everybody. Okay, we'll go now for those 2 questions. We'll keep here around 25 minutes. Thank you so much. In class activities, plus what you came to learn about today's lecture. If you are missing any of your activities, work on question 1. If you are done for all the in-class activities, go to question 2. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm here for anyone who needs any questions. I'm there for anyone who needs any questions. Thank you so much. Also, I will also put the video. I will put the videos also for the students who came late. I will put the videos for the students who came late, so they can watch what we are doing. Thank you. Students who came late, so they can watch, and for you also to remind you with what we came to know today, or what we came to learn today. Let me make it learn. What we came to learn today. what we came to learn today. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. I'm here for any questions. I'm here. Thank you.